we are back from a kind of hiatus.
It feels like a very long one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how many. I don't even know, like, yeah. When was the last time that we recorded? I don't even remember.
January? I think it was January.
Yeah. So, but damn, when I fall off the bandwagon, it's just, I really fall off the bandwagon.
Yeah.
When it happens, it really happens.
That's fair. That was also, like, mostly because I was just super, super busy with work, but... And I'm glad I have some free time back now. Yay.
Yeah, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Someone the other day, I read it somewhere, I think it was on Discord, someone said something about, I need to have free time again. And I was just thinking, I did not have, free time since 2006, probably.
Yep.
I was like, even when I do have it, it's this weird thing on my mind. Even when I know that I'm about to have some free time, even if it's just an hour or two in a day, somehow, if that miracle happens, then I actually get anxiety about, okay, how can I use this, time to the best of my ability? Like, how do I make this time count? So, is it really free time if you're stressing the fuck over it?
I feel like whenever I have a day off, I'm like, okay, how can I optimize my
my
day off?
Optimize, that's the word.
I can't just, like, turn my brain off and just...
this is actually something that I really appreciate about XNTPs, that they're just, they don't feel bad about wasting their time. Yeah. They genuinely don't feel bad about it. They can, deep dive into things and spend forever doing things that aren't necessarily constructive, I guess, or like just feeding their general knowledge and talking shit for hours and hours, and they don't feel bad about it at all. Like, they don't have a guilty conscience.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that I really like about them.
I know people talk about, like, oh, I'm spending my days off, like, bed rotting. I was like, I cannot relate.
Yeah. I can't.
I wish I could sometimes.
But I don't know, because sometimes I find myself starting to doom scroll, but I realize that while I'm doing that, I realize that I barely do that, like, in general. It might be like 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day. But the end of my day is 2-3 a.m. So by that time, I'm already so beat that even if I wanted to doom scroll for another hour, I wouldn't be able to, because I'm just, I pass out. And I also, like, I don't know if you're the same, but I almost never, like, it never happens that I fall asleep in front of a screen, like my laptop or iPad or cell phone, and then I get up and, like, I wake up and still see that video playing or whatever. It hardly ever happens to me. I always, like, have the self-discipline to just shut off, whatever it is that I'm doing, and then lay my head down, and that's it. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm the same way, but it's also, for me, it's because I'm an extremely light sleeper. So, like, if I were to fall asleep with the TV on, just the TV being on and, like, the lights and everything, like, it would wake me up, and then I would have to turn it off.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that the light from the screen is actually really bad for you. It makes it harder to fall asleep if you're on your phone or, like, on your computer shortly before you're supposed to go to bed. It's actually really bad for you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the blue light or what it is, but I've also, at the same time, I've heard that the whole blue light being bad or disruptive for you is also, like, a myth, so...
Yeah.
I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, I just feel like, people that struggle with sleep, it's because we have so many distractions. But also... I'm one of those people that, they call us psychopaths, but I just go to sleep. Honestly, like, I never find myself, lying in bed and having thoughts, for hours and hours, like, oh, But then again, I realize it's probably because I just exhaust myself to the point of passing out. So by the time that I'm actually in bed, I just go to sleep. I don't have the luxury of, tossing and turning and like thinking about, the
I
meaning
wish I was
of
that
life.
way.
I think it's because during the day my mind is on, like, it's just on and on and on and on. It's like so cramped up in here that by the time that I go to sleep, it's like my brain is like, okay, this is what we need. Now we turn off. This is our time.
Yep, exactly. Well, I'm excited about our episode today.
I know, me too. This is something that I probably wanted to do since we had the idea to start a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the first ideas that I really wanted to get to. And we'll be doing a deep dive, hopefully, into the Queen's Gambit, the TV show, the Netflix TV show. Do you think they'll ever do like a season 2?
No, and I really hope they don't.
I don't know. I kind of miss Benny.
I don't know. I feel like, what would they even do?
I know. The problem is that the raw material isn't there because there's only one book, right?
Yeah. I feel like where they left off, just with the just the material, just the source material of the book, was satisfying for me.
I feel like it was beyond satisfying because I read the book and in my opinion, I mean, the plot and like the raw material is great, but the book is not good. If you told me if I had to, like, how do I say this? If I had to determine between, like, the most simplified, to put it in the most simplified way, is the book good, yes or no, then I would say no because of the way that it was written, because it's very dry. It's really
extremely dry.
Yeah, it's not a good read, but it was an extremely good watch. And they took the bare bones of it and made something incredible out of it.
Now, I will say I haven't completely read the book. I've read the first maybe quarter of the book. I have it on my Kindle, which I will eventually finish it. And there are some things that they changed, just even from what I've read so far, that they changed for the show that I think were for the better.
Yeah,
and we will get to that.
I agree. I read the book. I don't remember a lot of it, but I do remember though that it's crazy because I was reading the book and it was the Queen's Gambit the way that I knew the show, because I first watched the show and then I read the book. And I read the book and I was like, okay, yeah, these are the characters, this is how the plot goes, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's like so dull. It was just boring to read. And I don't know, it's kind of crazy because I did see a lot of similarities, obviously, because this is what they were building on. But yeah, I don't know, like, there are things, we will get to them later on in later episodes, talking about, each episode. But it did left me, wanting in certain, like, with certain things on the show. Specifically Beth and Benny, because I'm just, I'm greedy and I wanted things to go a certain way, I wanted things to go a certain way, but I don't know, maybe it's because I see so much of myself in her, and like, I want things to go a certain way for her the way that I want things to go a certain way for me, but it's just it never works that way. And I don't know, maybe that's the realistic part of it, right? That we don't always get what we want, but sometimes we get what we need, in the words of, I forgot who said that? The Stones. In the words of this.
I knew that's where you were going.
Yeah.
So I agree, just based on what I have read from the book, that it's mostly it's not descriptive. There's no like flowery language, which normally doesn't bother me, but it comes off as extremely, extremely dry when you sit down and read the book.
Yeah, I mean, I read other authors that are pretty straightforward and simple, and like that's a part of their charm, but this isn't one of those things. It's just, I don't know. And that's why it's so weird, because you watch the show, you read the book, and you see the similarities and you see like all the parallels, but at the same time it's like so different.
I'm curious to know, because that author has written other books, and I'm curious to know if his other books read the same.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't read anything else from him, but I would like to at some point, because, it really is interesting to kind of see, his style in other things.
I'm curious just to know if this was a choice because of the character that he was writing about, or if he just decided, or if it was, this is how he writes all of his books.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that he did, he wrote, I think, about other games or sports, stuff like that. I believe that he has another book about, let's see, his name was Walter Tevis, right? Mm-hmm. Let's see. He wrote another book about The Hustler. He wrote that about pool, I think. Oh. Billiard. Yeah. So, yeah.
He just likes writing books about people who are really good at playing games.
Yeah, I guess. I was going to say something about the show and I forgot. Fuck. Okay, so should we just give a quick summary of
Yeah, I mean, for people who haven't seen the show.
Yeah, how would you describe it? Like, if you had to give your own summary.
Ooh. I would describe it as a story about a chess prodigy in the 1960s who is an orphan, and this is just like a really brief rundown.
Yeah.
Like the bare bones. She's taught how to play chess by the janitor at her orphanage, and goes on to kind of rise through the ranks and eventually faces off with the international chess champion. And it's kind of her rise from being an orphan and also dealing with a pill addiction along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. And that's just like what happens, but the deeper themes of it, and like when you really, really start peeling off the layers, it's just, to me, that to me is dark academia.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Genre wise. And it really is as dark as it gets too.
I mean, that's like a huge part of the dark academia genre, is like characters sometimes deal with addiction, obsession, and you can definitely say she's I would say she's pretty obsessed with chess. I mean, that's all she does. In you don't really see her engaging in I mean, you see her trying to hang out with girls her age and try to do age appropriate activities, and she doesn't care about any of that. That is not her passion. She doesn't really do much outside of just chess.
Yeah, there's also this one specific scene that comes to mind. I believe it was in the U.S. Championship. I don't remember if I could be wrong, but there were a couple of brothers that she knew from her city, I think, and they meet her there, at the hotel, and her mom is she's telling her, you need to freshen up a bit and like go out and chill, because all she ever does, even when she's going to these competitions and she's staying in nice hotels, and she has the opportunity, if she wants, to take a break, go to the pool, do all these things, and she chooses to stay in her room and stay with her books and replay her former games, looking for weak points and mistakes. And
studying
that's
like historical games and everything too.
That's all she does. And there's one scene when she meets those, she goes to the pool. I believe it's nighttime, so she goes to the pool and she sees the boys, and then they're playing a different game, and it looks like they're having fun, whatever, but I do feel like it doesn't, it shows you one part of her, but it doesn't really hold, because it's not something that she's interested in long term. So even if she does that for a bit, it's kind of like she's deviating from her own nature, but then she goes right back. You know what I mean? It's like it's a short intermission from who she is, like shedding off her skin, but then she has to go right back.
The same could be said also another later episode too. She like goes to a party and she like smokes weed for the first time and like has sex for the first time, and then she immediately is like, I don't care about this. Yeah,
so she has the experience, like she gets the experience, but I feel like she also kind of knew already that it's not her thing. You know what I mean? To begin with, but then she did it anyways. And I can understand that, because like there are expectations of us to behave a certain way at a certain time of our life, or like fall in line, do this, do that, don't be the don't be the exception, just fall in line, but then you do it and you're like, deep down you knew this isn't for you, like you knew this isn't you. So it's just like, you cross it off your list, and then you're back to whatever you were doing before.
Well,
yeah.
So we're gonna go episode by episode, it sounds like, for this.
Yeah, I think that'll be good.
I'm just gonna dissect each one, and it has, I believe, is it 6 episodes total? In the series?
Let's see. How many times do you think you've seen the show?
Oh God. I don't even remember now.
more or less. Probably more than me.
No, probably not.
No.
I would like 3 or 4.
I might have actually seen it a few times more than that. Let's see. Let's see how many episodes.
I don't watch a lot of TV, so something has to really captivate me to keep my attention.
Yeah.
So me watching this multiple times. Okay.
It has 7 episodes. I try to watch things. I'll talk about something incredible that I've recently, came across, which is rare. But yeah, I'll leave it, to the end of the episode. But okay, so we have 7 episodes, and let's just start, because I've been, taking notes and do it chronologically, I guess. Or like, the order of the scenes. So at the beginning, we start with, this is also something that I wanted to ask you. What do you think about the way that they chose to start the show? Because at the beginning we see her, this waiter or whatever, he walks up to her room. I think it's in France, was it? Like he was talking French. And he's coming to her room. She is sleeping, I think, in the bathtub, or she went in there to sober herself up real quick. And she's late to the big game with, what's his name? Bulgakov, was it? That's Vasily Borgov. Yeah. So, it starts with her in the bathtub. She's trying to sober herself up, I guess, because she's been up all night partying with this hot French hottie. And And she's late to the big game with Vasily Borgov. And, you know, he is a Russian grandmaster. And
yeah, he is like the number one at the time in the show.
Yeah, he is the world champion, and she's,
yes.
you know, she's supposed to beat him, and she's late to, you know, she's done all this work, and she's late to the game. And one thing that I noticed, you know, with the scene, first of all, what do you think about the scene? Like, the way that they chose to, you know, start this the show with this, you know, with this pinnacle, like this is the, you know, this is the point, you know, this is the build up.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good opening, just because I think it shows her not necessarily at her lowest point at this point in the story, but like you can see the descent is starting at this point, and starting the show right in the middle of that, like her on her downward slide, I think is pretty interesting. That, and then I think is it immediately followed by the scene where we find out that her mom died?
I think
so.
I think that shortly after that we switch back to her being a child and the accident,
Okay. Yeah, I do think it works pretty well.
So, okay, if you had to pinpoint like the one scene that was rock bottom, Beth's rock bottom, what would you say it was?
It was probably the scene where she's like on a bender in her house, like in her underwear, like puking into her chess trophy championship, and just like, and then she like falls and like hits her head on the table and like blacks out. Like I would say that's probably like her lowest point.
Interesting.
Otherwise, it would probably be that scene where she goes back to like her hometown, and she goes to like, I think she goes to watch a tournament, and she like shows up late, and they were gonna have like a photo shoot, and she shows up like with her like her makeup all like wild, and
that weird ass eyeliner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think she sees oh my god, what's his name? Beltic. They have like a conversation there. I think that one is also like in the running as well.
Yeah, you know, I tend to agree more on the Baltic one, and also I felt like the lowest point was probably when she was talking to Benny on the phone and when she was blocking him out. You know, just because there was a connection there that really, you know, it drove her to be better. And, you know, when I think about myself and when I think about this type of personality, I really do genuinely feel like that at the core, one of our main goals, if not the main goal, is to always self-improve.
Yeah.
You know, so when you find that sort of person that is constantly pushing you forward, but he also understands how he should go about it. You know, it's just, it really was perfect between them in that sense. And then she stops. Like, she won't let him in anymore. That to me was a part that was rock bottom. Not necessarily because, you know, she's getting drunk, she doesn't give a shit about anything anymore, blah, blah, blah. All of that, yeah, I get that. But it was more like, not, you know, he was reaching out, lending a hand, and she didn't take it. That was... I could
say that scene is, I would probably say, is like the catalyst that leads to her lowest point.
Yeah. So that's like one scene that I felt, you know, when it was really working against her.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we have that scene now, when she is late to meet Bogov, and Bogov, that's his name. Why do I keep forgetting? Borgov. Yeah. So the Russian dude.
The Russian guy.
Yeah.
I think they just, in the show, they call him the Russian. So.
The Russian. So, she walks up to him, like she storms into the room, everyone's waiting. She walks up to him, and there he sits. He's this older guy. He sits with both his hands on the table, and you see the wedding ring. And I've never thought of this before, but I actually watched the episode today. But knowing that we were going to record this, this episode, I was watching it through a different set of eyes almost. And I was thinking, here you have Beth, she's a young woman, just starting her life, starting her journey. And she really was, breaking the glass ceiling for so many women, even though she wasn't real. But I imagine, her struggles were real. I bet that like this happened to women in, a male dominated, world, chess, whatever, competitions, yada, yada. And, so you have this young girl, she's already struggling. She's a nonconformist. You know what I mean? And her rival is very, at least in my opinion, he's very traditional. You know what I mean? He's a traditionalist. He's married, he has a child. He's this very serious looking man. And they're almost like opposites.
Yeah.
And it made me think that there, like that point of contrast. You know what I mean? Because she really is anything but traditional. She's like she doesn't fit any box, you know? And then there's him, and they're such opposites, like, or they stand for opposite ideas. It just came to me from nowhere.
I could almost see like her being, or like him being like an INTJA and her being like an INTJT, because clearly like there is some turbulence happening here.
Yeah, I can see that.
Is he an INTJ?
I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see. ISTJ, they say. They also said that Mr. Scheibel is an INTJ, so that's all. It's interesting. Yeah. So, but he's also, he's much older. Like he had a time, he's had all the time in the world to kind of become a real person. And, like you said, different upbringing, different culture, but she is, she's severely, like, she had core issues, growing up the way that she grew up,
right, with
trauma and all that good stuff. But it's also what shaped her to be able to get to where she got, because if she was cushioned all the way to the top, then I don't think she would have made it all the way to the top. She is a survivor, and that's what allowed her.
I can almost see Borgov having the same kind of upbringing. You know how later on in the show when Beth has that game against that child, he's like a Russian child?
Yeah.
I can almost see Borgov having that kind of upbringing versus like Beth like learning how to play chess in the basement of an orphanage and like taking tranquilizers and like visualizing the pieces on the ceiling. Like two very different even like styles of how they learned chess. Yeah. Whereas I imagine his like learning chess was very like rigid and very structured.
Yeah, it's very Soviet, but but he's also, I think it looks like, the government is treating him, like an asset, not even a person. You know,
and that'll be in a later episode that we'll get to as well.
Yeah.
Think of there's a scene with that.
But yeah, so just that one scene instantly, the moment that I saw, him sitting there with his wedding ring, I was thinking, oh my God, they are so different. He stands up, for something entirely different. But yeah, so the green pills, then we see them. We see her taking the green pills, and there's that, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction at that point, because she feels like she needs this in order to do what she does best. it's almost like a ritual having the substance to rely on. Like, this is her safety net, you know? So, but yeah, going back to, again, what's his fucking name? This will never sink in, Borgoff. So, going back to him, the whole idea of traditionalism, I guess. I once came across this really interesting Reddit thread about, are INTJs traditionalists, you know? And there were so many, like, mixed comments, like, people saying different things. What do you think? Do you think we're traditionalists?
I think it is just, it depends on the person. I don't think you can put every single INTJ in the same box. I feel like there are some, especially, like, I would maybe even say, like, leaning towards older, maybe INTJs, where they're going to be more traditionalists. But I think also INTJs are kind of known for problem solving by thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on the person, for sure.
Yeah.
I think they're traditionalists in some ways and maybe non-traditionalists in other ways.
Yeah, to me it's crazy because I am such a walking contradiction on many things. Like, on one thing, you know, but I do have, like, very strong opinions about everything. But at the same time, it's like you wouldn't expect me to think a certain way about one thing, or if I do think a certain way about one thing, that you would expect me to kind of follow the same narrative, or, like, whatever it is. But I don't. Like, I genuinely don't. I have, you know, it's a weird thing, but I do think that, you know, being a thinker and, you know, constantly questioning everything, like, you have tradition, but at the same time you have to find the logic behind tradition, because, you know, having the reasoning of, it's just always been that way, or, like, we do this because this is how everyone does, you know, is doing this.
Yeah.
That doesn't really sit well with us.
Exactly.
So it's, you know, I see the merit in some traditions, and others I will subscribe to, some I won't.
And I will say, when it comes to, like, problem solving too, like, INTJs aren't the ones to be like, well, this is how things have always been done, so this is how we should keep doing things. Like, we're known to be kind of innovators when it comes to, like, solving problems and, like, maybe thinking of a different way to do things that might be more optimal than just doing things the way that they've always been done.
Exactly. And that is why, you know, to follow up with that is also why I feel like a lot of INTJs are obsessed with chess, and, like, this is where the, you know, the stereotype comes from. Because when you look, I was actually going to ask you this at some point, you know, recording these episodes, because we look at the board and we like seeing the options.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even when we're looking for a solution, we're looking for a better solution all the time. So we like to contemplate, like, the different options and then decide, okay, this one will work best, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just try to answer this. Why are we so obsessed with chess? Like, personally, why do you love chess?
Okay, so for me, it's actually, I love the strategy aspect of it, and this is also why I really like strategy games. This is actually, I'll talk about it in my recs at the end, but I feel like, I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel before, but the game Crusader Kings is, like, I really like playing that game. It's basically like, it's like the Civilization games where you're building and expanding your empire, and you're fighting, you're building your army and you're fighting battles, and, like, it's very strategic, and I love, you know, those kinds of games. The other thing I really like about chess is just the historical aspect of it. I really like how there's so much history when it comes to chess, because this game, I mean, it's centuries old. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how things have been, like, over the years, people have developed, like, new strategies, or, like, they like have developed different, like looking at all the chess openings and like all the mid-game strategies and everything that's just been developed over centuries and centuries. I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah, when you say that now, it occurs to me that the reason that I like chess is also the reason that I like coding, because it's, writing code, it will never be like, you will never reach a dead end with it. It's like, I think of it as like a giant tree that keeps growing more and more branches. It's a never ending thing. We will always invent more. And I kind of think of chess, the same way, because like sure, you only have so many combinations of like moves or whatever, but at the same time, it's like you can always find a new way,
Yeah, that's a cool thing I think about chess too, is like learning chess openings and like how you can do so many, like let's say your opponent uses this opening, and then it's very reactive, where you're like, now you have to decide what you want to do in response.
Exactly.
There's so many options.
And it can
really
can be intuitive, which is what Beth does. Her game is very intuitive. So yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask you. But I do feel, when I play chess, sometimes first of all, it's just you against the other player. It's a very, self-reliant game, but also, and I do think there, INTJs have that individualistic, like, we need to be individualists, and we also like don't really like to rely on other people. Group projects.
How are you at team sports and team games?
And then you have to lie, because otherwise they won't hire you. But it's like, what, if I would rather
I love working with a team.
I love people. I'm great with people. I love relying on other people because they're so capable, right? They're not going to screw me over or anything. But yeah, it's very individualistic, but also looking down on the board, it makes me feel like the master of the universe almost, because this is all mine, and and coding is actually the same. I see like a lot of parallels between the two. Because with coding, you start from nothing. It's just one line, two lines, and then you build more and more on top of it. And chess, if played correctly, then it can be kind of the same way, because you have one piece guarding your rival's piece, and everything it's a delicate balance, Yeah. Yeah. So. That's that. One thing that's really interesting. Okay, so moving on from what's his name?
The Russian,
yeah. There's this one scene where we see Beth's life before her mom died. Her mom, I believe, like she was mentally ill.
Yeah.
Right? And
her mom was also what was she?
She went to Cornell.
Yeah, she was extremely well educated, but then she just I guess her mental illness kind of just got the better of her.
Yeah, so her name was Alice, and there's this one scene, because she lived with Beth in a trailer, and her father used to come around, and he wanted to see Beth and get to know her and whatnot, and her mom kind of shut him out and wouldn't let him. But there's this one scene, going back to her mom being well educated, there's this one scene where her mom decides she's having some kind of episode. She takes a bunch of stuff and she decides to set fire to all of it, and Beth takes out a book from the piles and saves it. And it has her mom's name on the cover, she wrote this book in Cornell, whatever. And you see that her mom was actually very educated. She's not some street smart lady that got knocked up and that was it. But there was definitely like a descent there, you know? And it made me think, because I believe that the book was something about mathematics, maybe. And then the next scene,
sounds right.
Yeah, and then the next scene, we see Beth when she's at the orphanage, and like she's in math class, and she's so ahead of her class because she finishes the test, and then the teacher, she sees, like, she's reading the answers, and she's like blown away by her level. And it really made me think about, nature versus nurture, and like even how much of our parents do we have in us, even though we didn't grow up with them, just DNA, like on a biological level, like how much do we inherit from them. And like one tidbit, it's really interesting, but it kind of jarred me, to be honest. So I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I never knew my father. Like, I didn't grow up with him. I only grew up with my mom. And she rarely talks about him and like what he was like, what he was into, his interests, blah, blah, blah. I did know that he was tutoring and like teaching university level math. He was very good at that. But he also apparently read philosophy. I've never been like great at math. I actually hate it, but
I actually hate math as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the other day, I don't even remember how it came up, but I was mentioning some philosophy, or like books of philosophy that I was reading, and my mom told me that he used to sit in the living room with his brother and talk philosophy, and like talk about Nietzsche and all that. And I was like, what? It's crazy, because I mean, clearly there's something to it, I don't know. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I know what you mean. My mom was very much like a reader as well. Like she worked at a library. Like my entire childhood, like there was always like books. There was books in the house. Like I would go to the library like with my mom, like wait for her to finish her working, and then we'd go home, like, and I would just hang out at the library. So like being around books really like shaped my love of books. And I don't think like that's why when I hear people say that they hate reading, and like people who brag about never having read a book in their entire life, I cannot relate. And I think it's because of my upbringing and being surrounded by books, and like my mom loving books, and that rubbed off on me. Like I can't even imagine not being a reader.
I can't even imagine bragging about never having read a book.
I know, blows my mind. I don't understand.
It's like
why you'd be proud to say you've never, like, I haven't read a book since high school. Like, okay, cool. Like,
yeah, because they put a gun to your head, an academic gun to your head. But it's just, I don't know, like there's something about reading. So I actually tried to think about it on a deeper level to try to understand what it is about reading, but I feel like there's something so sexy about reading, because when you see someone, when they're reading and like they're in their own world, it's amazing, because to me it's almost like this person is whole enough, and like they are together enough to self-soothe and like they keep themselves busy without needing all these instant, distractions, like things from the outside constantly grabbing their attention and holding their attention, like, social media and all that shit. If you always need other people, or, social media, your cell phone, whatever, if that's what you need in order to feel like, in order for it to hold your attention, then it's just, there's something severely wrong with that,
I mean, clearly this shit is not holding people's attention, because people can't even sit down and like watch a minute-long video anymore if it's not like short form, like 30-second, like TikToks or Instagram reels. Like they're not interested.
Yeah,
Like,
it just gets worse and worse, really.
it does. Like, I love sitting down and just, like, if I'm gonna be on YouTube, I don't really watch, like I said before, I don't really watch a lot of TVs or movies, but I will sit down and, like, watch a video essay, like a 3 hour long video essay.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, people's attention span. I feel like such a boomer when I say this, but, like, the kids these days, like, their attention span, it's scary.
No, it's
scary
true.
How
It's true. It's true. Like, how can we truly internalize things anymore if we don't take the time to kind of linger on something and really wallow? You know what I mean? Like, how is anything gonna sink in? And I think that, you know, the rise in personality disorders, specifically narcissism, you know, that's part of the reason why it's growing so fast, because everything's surface level all the time. It's insane.
I have a job where I work with the public, and I can see every single day how people they're very, like, it's the narcissism, it's the main character syndrome, like, nobody else matters except me, like, that kind of mentality.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's only going to get worse, because the thing about narcissism is that it won't allow you to self-improve, because you know, you're already perfect, so why listen to anything, you know, anyone else says. But yeah, so back to the main I don't even remember what I was trying to say anymore. Yeah, so just about Beth and math, and like seeing, like, knowing that her mom was really good at it, and she was really good at it as well. But yeah, so after that, we have the first time that she sees Mr. Scheibel in the basement, and he's playing chess. And he, like, that is one thing that I found really interesting. He sits there, you know, and he's very still. There's very little movement to him physically, you know, like what we see on the surface, like he barely, you know, touches the I think he's moving the pawn, I believe. But there's so much more happening behind his eyes, you know. And I thought it was a really good analogy to, you know, just introverts in general, but maybe even INTJs in particular, that we see so little, but behind the curtain there's so much going on. You know, it's the iceberg effect.
Yeah, it's the intuitive, the NI DOM. In our cognitive stack, which is like we process information in the background, and it kind of helps us to come to a conclusion. And if you ask, how do you come to this conclusion, you can't always actually give an answer.
I know, it's so frustrating. I know this, but I don't know how I know this.
I got to this conclusion. Don't tell me how, or don't ask me to explain how I got here. But
it's my gut feeling, you know.
Exactly.
It's my gut feeling, but it's in my brain. That's what's crazy, you know. That is why it's so, like, confusing, because it's your brain. I don't know. It's your brain feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that meme. Brain feeling.
Brain feeling.
Yeah. But it's like that meme, you know, of an INTJ, like, so they have a brain for a brain and then a brain back up in their chest. It's just so crazy. But I thought it was a really, like, it was a nice scene to kind of, like, how do I say this? To really encapsulate.
Yeah.
The whole thing of her, really. Because I don't know, and this is another thing, because, you know, nowadays I feel like in order to attract a child's attention, you would have to go a long way. But all he was doing, he was sitting there, you know, in a pretty darkened room, poring over this chess piece, and that's it. And she was hooked, you know.
Nowadays, you'd have to put it on an iPad and shove an iPad in front of her face and be like, "Here you go."
Right.
Chess.
And have, you know, happy music, and it had to be colorful.
Bright colors.
And all that shit. But yeah, I found it to be very interesting.
I do like the fact that she just picks up on the rules just from the few times that she like goes down to like she's cleaning the erasers, I believe.
Yeah.
And she, like they send her because she finishes her work so fast. They send her down to clean erasers.
Yeah.
And she literally just watches him just by watching him play like chess by himself. She picks up the rules from there.
Yeah, and she already knows like which piece like goes where. What each piece is able to do. But yeah, that was a good one. And there's also like, okay, this is my final note, but there's a part where, you know, once she starts beating him, like really beating him, like you see Mr. Scheibel is trying to win, but he's, you know, he's just she gets to a point where she's so much better, and she's only 9, you know. And then the head of the chess club, he invites him over to play her and like see, you know, witness this miracle child. And this guy, the head of the chess club, he asks her, where does she play? Because she plays like someone who plays all the time. But actually she is only playing, you know, a few times every Sunday, I believe it was, in the basement with Mr. Scheibel. And she says that the rest of the time she plays in her head on the ceiling. And then the guy looks up. And he also, you know, he presents her with this gift, the doll.
Oh, and I was literally thinking of this scene earlier.
And, you know, it just, these two tidbits genuinely, like, I feel like they show so perfectly how misunderstood she is, you know? And
you left out the most important detail is as soon as the guy leaves and she walks away, she tosses the doll in the trash can.
She throws it away because she doesn't give a shit. But you know, to me, it's incredible because I think this is the first time that I really felt, maybe except for House, but this is the first time that I really, really felt in a character's shoes. And I'm going to ask you this, but I'm going to first answer. But, you know, what, to me, like, when a character is being introduced, you know, on screen, like in a book, whatever, how do you know that they are like you? And I realized, and this is you know, something that I realized pretty recently when I was kind of, you know, working in my, like, the idea of doing, you know, talking about the Queen's Gambit. It kind of dawned on me that I realized she is so much like me through other characters and like through the way that the environment was treating her, but not so much as, like, it was, you know how they say that actors sometimes, like, you have like two different methods usually, either you work from the inside out or from the outside in, you know? So with her, I realized all our similarities through the way that the environment was reacting to her and not the other way around. Like, I hope that I'm making sense, but it's more like seeing her in different situations, but it always like involved other people. So for example, with the head of the chess club, with, you know, the scene where she was sitting with the girls and, you know, the queen bee was inviting her over for whatever they were doing. You know, all the girls are singing the same song. They all know the song. She has no idea. Like, how many times in your life have you missed out on you know, on a reference, on a pop culture reference or whatever, because you don't give a fuck about that sort of thing, you know? You're not up to whatever trend is going on right now. You just don't give a shit.
I feel exactly the same way. And also, like, the scenes where she... I think the one... what is that one girl's name? The girl who is, like, the most popular girl or whatever.
I forgot.
Fuck, I don't remember. There's, like, a scene where she, like... she's walking in the hallway and the girl, like, makes, like, a little, like, snide comment about Beth's outfit and she, like, tells her to, like, fuck off. Like, that.
Yeah.
That scene, yeah. But no, another thing I would say, I totally agree with you about that, with, like, how she interacts with, I guess, the norms and, like, what is typical. But also another thing that I really noticed, and this is actually something why I watched the show, and my friend had actually picked up first before I had seen the show. She told me, she's like, you need to watch the show because this character is so much like you. And, like, like, even, like, her mannerisms and stuff, I was like, okay, like, I'll watch, like, let's
give it a
see,
shot.
let's check it out. And I can see, like, just the little, like, and I think Anya Taylor-Joy does a really good job at this, like, encapsulating the character with, like, her body language and just, like, her little mannerisms and stuff. Like, when I watch a scene where Beth is, like, looking at the chessboard and you can see her eyes, like, moving around.
Yeah.
And, like, taking in every single piece and trying to, like, find what the best move is. Like, I feel, like, just in, like, the little things like that. Like, I'm like, yeah, that feels like me.
Yeah.
Like,
she has sometimes that murderous INTJ look. She has it, you know, when she gets super focused on something, like hyper focused on something. Yeah, she's got it.
Actually, funny story, that used to be a joke that my parents and, like, my parents' friends would talk about, is how they would call it the look, and apparently my grandpa and my mom also had it, but it was like the INTJ stare, essentially.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, like, do the look. Yeah. And they would, like, make me do it, and I, like, this little, like, my cold stare, and they're like, they thought it was, like,
yeah,
like, haha, like, look at this little adult, but, like, like, okay. But, like,
that's so funny.
Yeah, it was, now that I'm an adult and know about MBTI, I'm like, yeah, that's just the INTJ stare, basically.
Yeah. I actually smile a lot, but I think that it's just something that I picked up over the years, because it's not something, like, it's something that I almost do to appease other people, because if I wear my real face all the time, it looks disturbing.
And you know what? I will also say, like, not to get into it with this episode too much, because we've already been talking for, like, so long.
Yeah,
and
an
this
hour.
Could be its own episode, but, like, I also feel like as a woman, you're kind of conditioned to, like, you should smile and try to be, like, look nice and not look intimidating, and
look approachable.
Look approachable, and we're kind of conditioned to just
Very
smile.
true. Very true. And if I don't smile, you know, if I wear my real face, then I genuinely look upset. And even though that's not what it is, but I think that's also part of it, you know, of constantly being misunderstood, misinterpreted, because what we put on is being misinterpreted. Like, that's not what it is.
That, I relate to that a lot. I feel like a lot, like, things can get misconstrued a lot.
Yeah.
Like, just because... And I was also going to say, I noticed that when I'm grocery shopping, I have, like, I scowl, basically, when I grocery shop. Like, I'm so focused on, like, getting in, getting what I need, and getting out, that, like, I you can see it on my face. Like, that's just, like, my
a girl
face.
on a mission.
And I'm like, I probably look like... no wonder nobody has spoken a single thing to me. Like, nobody wants to approach me right now.
Yeah, I get it, but I think that, you know, it's also why, because, you know, a lot of this is something that I constantly go back to. Like, people always dismiss MBTI, and they're like, oh, you can put people in boxes, this is bullshit, blah blah. And I think that, you know, when people say that, it's because they've never been an INTJ in their lives. You know, it's hard to live that way, to when you're constantly trying. I mean, I feel like it's almost inevitable that at some point you just stop giving a fuck, because it's hard to constantly be looking for that approval, and to constantly try to build bridges with people who have no idea how to even begin to read you. And I think that even people who know me really well, or like have known me for a very, very long time, but still don't really know me that well, or still don't know how to read my behaviors. Or like even people that I've known for years, I will still, you know, if I feel like it, I will divulge things that just make them completely surprised. And they do feel, you know, they find some things that I've done, some stuff that I'm into, like out of character. And it's just, it's hard, but it's almost inevitable that after a while you just stop caring, or like you turn it off, because you can't, it's exhausting to constantly try to be understood. Right. But that is why I became so obsessed with MBTI, because you realize, okay, I'm not alone. There are other people like this, not many of them, but there are other people like this, so I'm not crazy, basically.
Right.
You know, it's like ungaslighting yourself. And it's just, it felt really nice. It was really reassuring.
For sure.
And, you know, and people that don't want to put themselves in boxes like that, in the MBTI sense at least, it's just because they never experienced this feeling, so they can't understand. You know, like, they don't understand the meaning of it, of finally seeing, like, realizing, okay, you know, that this is, it might not be normal, but there are other people like me. And normal's overrated anyways. You know. But yeah.
Cool. I think that about wraps it up for the first episode.
Yeah. Is there anything else we would like to add?
I don't think so. I think we touched on pretty much everything. I think the episode does a good job of setting up the rest of the series for sure. Yeah, okay. In my opinion.
Well, I'm just going to say this. If you haven't seen the show, then go watch it several times even.
Or you can do episode by episode and follow our podcast as we watch an episode and then listen to our episode.
That's what you should be doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we move on to Rex?
Yeah, for sure.
I do have some, but you go ahead. By the way, what was the name of that game again? Crusaders Kings?
Oh, Crusader Kings 3, yeah.
3, okay. I'd like to check it out. I'm intrigued.
It's actually, yeah, I mean, I haven't played other...
what is it? Is it desktop or...
I have it on... I believe you can get it on PC, and then you can also get it on console as well, because I did have it
okay.
on an Xbox a while ago, but I usually play on PC. It's cool. I've actually been playing the Game of Thrones mod, because somebody made a mod that you can choose, like, you can make a character, or I'm pretty sure you can play as a character from the show or the movie. That sounds really cool. But yeah, I've been playing the Game of Thrones mod because it's fun. It's very I will say it's a little intimidating if you've never played a strategy game before, because there's a lot. It's very, very complex. I think even compared to other strategy games, this game has a lot of mechanics to work with. So, like, there's different nations you can choose that have a higher or a lower difficulty. So if you're gonna, like, jump in, I would maybe start with, like, an easier one, just because the game, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, okay. I'm not easily intimidated, but I'm definitely interested.
It's just to, like, just to ease you into it, because it's just a lot of resource management, which it can get, like, a little overwhelming, but I really like it. It's a fun game.
Okay, cool.
My other recommendation is I've been watching YouTuber, what is the channel called? Let me look here. This is kind of an odd one, but I've been watching Useful Charts a lot. Have you ever seen that channel before?
No, never.
It's a guy who does just, like, flow charts of, like, historical family trees, or like timelines of, like, different points in history. It's, like, a lot of history, but also he does things like the entire, like, all of the family trees from Game of Thrones, or, like...
Oh, wow.
evolutionary trees for like birds and reptiles. Just like there's so many. It's just a lot of really cool like charts that this guy does. And
yeah, then, like, he did the genealogy of Jesus. Wow.
Yeah, okay. He does a lot of stuff. So that is a really fun channel. I like it a lot. A lot of history, good history and stuff. Yeah.
I'm seeing his face. He's definitely giving me Judger vibes. just seeing his face, I wonder if, you know, if I'm correct. Yeah.
What were your recommendations?
Okay, so I read some, it's not very recently anymore, but I read some pretty good existential pieces. Yeah, it's been a while, but are you reading anything at the moment?
I am just starting, actually, rereading The Silmarillion.
Okay.
Because I was going through all the Lord of the Rings books.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd still like to read.
I got nothing to say about that.
Yeah, I'd still like to read.
Chicago. There will be clouds with a chance of showers, with a high of 62 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 56 degrees.
Iconic.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me just find them based on like what I've read on Goodreads. Based on the date.
I haven't updated my Goodreads in a while.
Yeah, me neither, but I just... Could it be that I have not included them? Damn. Oh yeah, here they are. So, I read No Longer Human by...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, by Osamu Dazai.
Yeah.
And also Stoner by John Williams.
Okay.
Both really good existential pieces.
Yeah, No Longer Human is very good.
Yeah, I really... Oh my goodness. This person. Their car. Yeah, I'm just... okay. So I read No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai and Stoner by John Williams. Both really good existential pieces. Relatively short reads. Stoner was a bit longer, but really good. And I don't know, I was kind of feeling in a pretty depressive kind of, oh, what is the meaning of life? What is all of this? You know, type of deal. I also still want to read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. It's been on my shelf for a very long time. It's been on my radar before I actually had a copy for a very long time. Then I was able to get a copy.
Have we talked about that before?
I feel like I probably said it because there are just certain books that I have to already cross off my list. You know, I've been eyeing them for so long, and then I get sidetracked with other stuff. But yeah, so I read these two. I read Mary by Vladimir Nabokov, and it's a pretty short one.
I would be interested to hear your thoughts on My Year of Rest and Relaxation because I have thoughts on that book. So when you read it, let me know.
Yeah, maybe we can do a segment on it. But yeah, so I was kind of on a Nabokov roll because I read Mary and it was, you know, his writing is beautiful, but this specific piece was not as engaging definitely not as engaging as Lolita. But now I'm reading two of his books like simultaneously. I know that's very ambitious, but I'm reading Ada or Ardor, and I'm reading Pale Fire.
So I was actually just going to say I just a couple months ago picked up a copy of Pale Fire, and I haven't read it yet, but it is on my shelf to read, and I'm excited to start it. But yeah, I also have that book right now. I'm
only like halfway through, so if you want to start it, you'll probably catch up. To be honest,
it's not too long.
No, it's not. But it's also like really interesting because it's not what I would expect. I mean, the writing is just
written in a kind of different format, right?
It's so weird. It's so not what I expected. Because when I was reading about it and reading what other people were saying about it, they said that it's written as this, you know, really long, like in the form of a really long poem, but. I mean, you have... So, the premise is that you have the poems, and then the person that you're reading this, through their point of view is, so like the person who wrote the poems is this older professor, I believe, but then his friend is kind of like, after he passes, this professor who wrote the poems, his friend is giving commentary about the poems, like, and it's kind of, he's kind of breaking it to by the line almost, and you have like a very long commentary. Well, some of the paragraphs are long, some are shorter, but he's basically like, it's basically a breakdown of almost every single line, and then through that you find all these stories and tidbits. And it's kind of crazy because when I'm reading it, it doesn't really feel like fiction. It feels more like nonfiction. So I would say that the plot of the book is really taking the backseat. It's not really, in your face. But it's still, it keeps you interested because Nabokov knows how to do that. He knows how to tell a story. He grabs the reader, by the neck. And on top of that, the writing is just phenomenal. I genuinely feel like he's one of the best, if not the best author that I've ever read.
I agree. I wouldn't go into reading a Nabokov book thinking the writing is going to be anything less than top tier.
Yeah, he's just, he's flexing and he's just, oh my God, unbelievable. But yeah, it really is next level. I've never read anything like him. So yeah, Ada or Ardor and Pale Fire. And I do feel like he's very controversial. Like he writes a lot about, controversial topics.
Right.
It's very brave. And it's not just what he does, but the way that he does it. Because the amazing writing is just, as amazing as it is, it's just the embellishment. But also like the ideas that he presents and what he chooses to convey. It's just, with Lolita, what he's done. I feel like, writing about pedophilia. I mean, nowadays it almost feels like it's even worse. Like, to write about pedophilia nowadays is literally suicide. But
yeah, well, it's because people have no critical reading skills and they can't separate what a character does versus what the author thinks or feels.
That, and also because I feel like pedophilia is probably the last holy cow that to slaughter. Like, it's I feel like it's like, don't touch the kids. That is literally the last sacred thing. So when you go there, it's literary suicide. But I do believe that he was also in the right place, the right time, because if he wrote Lolita nowadays, I don't know if he would, if we'd be here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would have probably, never saw the light of day.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, so that's that.
Publishers nowadays would not touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Or they would be extremely reluctant to.
Yeah. So that's that, books-wise. And then I watched something on Netflix that I think it blew my mind. It's called Adolescence.
Okay.
And, it made a lot of noise. I was pretty good about watching it because I think I must have seen it the week that it dropped, actually. And it's been everywhere online. The algorithm has been pushing it like crazy. I mean, now the buzz is like starting to dwindle a little, but oh my goodness. So this show, it's I think that they might be coming back with another season, but it's a relatively short show. It's like I think it was 4 episodes, something like that. But it's an English show. And basically, it's about this kid. I think he's like 13 years old. And it starts when, police is pretty much breaking into his house and they're arresting him for the murder of another girl. And it's really not, I would say it's unusual. I've never seen anything like it. Like the way that they chose to go about it, but they don't really show you any gore, but it's more like all of it focuses around this kid from the moment that he is being taken in, and like they interrogate him and all of that, and you see how it's starting to affect his family, his friends, like at the school. And it's fascinating because you get to see this ripple effect, like a pebble in the water, and you see like the different, like the way that the police goes about it, the way that they the second episode, I believe, was just phenomenal. The entire episode is just him sitting in one room, one-on-one with, I believe she was a social worker or a psychologist. I'm not sure, but like she's sent there to evaluate like his mental state or whatever. And then based on that, they decide like whether they're gonna press charges or something like that. And then he started talking to her, and it's so layered. And this kid, his acting is just off the charts. It's insane. It's also like his first part ever.
Oh, really?
He doesn't have any acting experience. It's just, oh my goodness, like you have to check it out, honestly. And it's just fascinating. Like it keeps you, on the edge of your seat, but also, I mean, I feel like it's not for everyone in a sense that you have to have you have to look at it on a deeper level. Like you have to see through the drama, because like there are many pauses, like it's a heavy drama, all that. It's not for everyone. If you're into, things that are quicker, like things that happen more quickly, it's probably not going to hold your
That's not
attention. Yeah. But it's so fascinating to see. And it's also like, it really, if you have the patience and if you know what to look for, then it really, really, really holds your attention. I was so, I was so hooked. And
I'm not somebody who's like into like flashy action sequences, so I like things that are more slow.
I mean, I can do both, but it depends on the mood. But with this one, and I think that like I don't want to give away the themes, but I would say that it's so relevant to today's society, Zoomer society, and younger than that. It's just, and it really shows you also like the difference between the generations, and like how parents, kids and parents relationships and all that. And it's just, it's a very difficult watch, because it shows you like it's a shot of reality, really. And it blew my mind. It really blew my mind. And and the internet was raving about it, and rightfully so, because I thought that good TV was Dad in the Water, and then I saw this. Really. And it gives me hope. It gives me hope. And also, like, I've never seen, the themes that they chose to put into this series, I've never seen them played on screen before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will look it up, because I'm actually, because I'm gonna renew my Netflix subscription to rewatch The Queen's Gambit. I will
do it.
Netflix.
Yeah, you should do it. And it's a pretty short one. But yeah. And also a lot of people, this is just a side note, I'm not going to be giving anything away, but the people who were unable to take a deeper look into this series felt that it was lacking in a sense that it didn't give them what they wanted. But going back to what I said at the beginning of this episode, you don't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I think that about wraps up our episode for today.
And I'm looking forward to the next one already.
Me too.
Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Check out the Rex and stay tuned for the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.